This is our last meeting, and I'll try to watch in case somebody comes in. And there's a lot of material. There's no way that I can cover all of this material tonight. And I know y'all read it. That's what you should do. And you can you're really just hearing it in my accent. So let me get going here, and I'm going to try to watch for people coming in. So we're doing the last 3 chapters, talking about alerts. Some of this we've already talked about. So a lot of your labs that you'll be doing are going to be using Security Onion. In the very first lab that you all did when you installed VirtualBox, you also downloaded and installed Security Onion. Now I noticed that the lab that I had posted there gave you the wrong link to the Security Onion. So I've reposted that very first lab. So if you need to go back and get that link for the OVAs, for the workstation and Security Onion, you will need to install Security Onion as another appliance in VirtualBox. So there's a lot to Security Onion. It gives, understand, Andrea, trust me. It gives us a lot of tools. We'll look at it a little bit. It is open source. However, as any open source, there are commercial varieties of Security Onion. Of course, it have more tools, but it was built by defenders for defenders, and it has pieces of intrusion detection, log management, and so forth. That's handy. Okay. So some of the tools that are used for evaluating alerts in Security Onion, and there's more. You'll use these top 3 in the labs that you're going to be doing. You'll use Squeal. It's part of Security Onion. What you'll do is what's called pivot to Wireshark and actually open a PCAP from some data. When you're doing the lab, you'll also use Kibana, and this goes by several names. So that first step is you're just analyzing data. It's an alert triage type thing. So all you're doing with these tools, and there's more of them, that you will be using these 3. It just sort of, you're creating a case, or you're finding out what alerts are there. Then there are some dashboards, lots of dashboards, and we'll scratch the surface. And this is not nearly all of them. Snort is a dashboard. And all of these, after you have analysis or you have the data, you would need dashboards to sort of separate the data, normalize the data, and that sort of thing. Then after that, with the data, you're taking the output from the analysis and the detection, and you're either using an existing rule or you're creating a new rule. So all of this is just part of the Security Onion architecture, but there's more to it. But this is kind of the part that you need to know. This is another way to look at it. So Security Onion runs over an operating system, mostly Linux. And then we have the infrastructure. Let's just go here. So here we've got the infrastructure that runs on top of the operating system, makes all those analysis tools and so forth work. Then we have the network and host data, and that could be intrusion detection, both host and network. That's where the logs come into play. We're running queries to see what's taking place with this particular output. And there's our dashboards. Kibana is one of them. It's also has other names. So those analyst tools, all the tools used to gather alerts and organize them. So you're going to get just a small taste of those when you do the labs in 26 and 27. So we talked about this last week. We talked about the 5-tuple, and you'll hear it many times. If you take the certification test, there's a lot of question on the certification test. So all of the alerts will include those 5-tuples, and that would be the source IP address for whatever event you're looking at, the source port, that layer 4 port for the TCP or UDP port for that event, the destination IP, then the destination layer 4 port for the event. So that source port and destination port, those will be different, and you'll see that when you do those labs. And then the IP protocol number for the event. So what you're doing is you're working through this queue, if you will, to sort of investigate if there's an alert, if there's an event that has taken place. You're using, when you right click on any particular event, there's a plethora of tools that you can actually pivot to find more details. So when you do these labs, you to take your time with them, follow the directions, kind of hold your finger there for the commands. You might have to do them a couple times to really see what's going on. So this is Squeal. So Squeal is part of Security Onion. So when you open the Security Onion ODA, that machine in that appliance in your virtual machine, Squeal will be on your desktop. And so this just tells you what particular, and you kind of have to look at this a bunch of times, but you're going to see the 5 tuples there. For instance, here's the status of the event here, and it's color coded by priority. So we have a low, medium, high, and the colors range, of course, light yellow, which is not much, red is not great. And then we've got the CNT, that's the count for the number of times that event has been detected. And look at the red here, 6 times. That would immediately raise a flag with me. So it would be the same source and a lot of times the same IP address. So then you have a sensor, and that's the agent reporting the event, and that would be some kind of number or alert ID. So that's the Squeal dashboard, if you will. But you can pivot from this many directions. Then you have the alert ID. I already mentioned the, I'm sorry, there's the sensor, I believe. And then there, which was Security Onion. And then there's the alert ID. That's just the event number, the date and time, which would be important. You're going to see that most of the labs took place in 2020. So in fact, you'll have to change the date sometime because it'll have the current date on it. And I'll show you what I'm talking about when we get there, because you'll want to see a certain event that took place. And then there will be some kind of message over here. See, here's a message: ET current events, QNAP shell shock, CVE. And this number should look familiar to you because we've looked at the CVE numbers. That's that public database that tells us some of the threats, unknown threats. So notice that particular alert does have a CVE number associated with it. So there's just, and then you can come down here, you can show the rule, and you can see more information about IP address, TCP data, and so forth. It's kind of endless. So those alerts can be a network, IDS, intrusion detection system, could be a host intrusion detection system. Maybe it's just an asset management monitoring. Could be a HTTP, DNS, TCP transaction that are recorded by other packet capturing software. And then could be syslog messages. So all those alerts are displayed in Squeal, and they'll be in different message formats, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So this Squeal alert was triggered by a rule that was configured in Snort, which is another piece of software. Let's see here. So here is the alert, and you kind of have to break it down and look at the syntax separately. We have a rule header. So the rule header is alert IP any to any. That just means source and destination, any source and destination, and any source and destination port, and it tells a direction of the traffic flow. That was source to destination. So if it was destination to source, the arrow would be the other way. There's the message. So here we've got the message in green up here. Details of the packet content. We've got something about the root. That should raise a flag because we don't want anybody accessing root access. And then the rule location. See, I think we've got more on the next page. This breaks it down even further. There's the rule header. The action to be taken is to issue an alert. In other words, this is an alert. There's the protocol. Specified source is any IP address in any layer 4 port. That's the any. The direction of flow, source to destination, and then the specified destination is any IP address in any layer 4 port. So when you get to the lab in 2617, what you're going to do, and I got some directions here that you'll need to pay attention to. In part 1, it tells you to select bridge adapter when you go through the settings of your virtual machine and select Wi-Fi. So if your particular machine that you're using is not using Wi-Fi, so I have an Ethernet connection here, so I'm hardwired. So I had to change Wi-Fi to Ethernet, or you're not going to get any data. And you'll know you have it right because the first thing it tells you to do is to ping www.cisco.com. And if you don't get anything, you'll know, well, I better go back and check my settings. And it goes through and tells you how to do it, but it doesn't tell you that if you're not using Wi-Fi to choose Ethernet. So the purpose of that lab is for you to see that you can set rules. So this is what I was talking about. So, and this is on the lab. This is the topology of the lab. So you will not see this. You will not even see, it won't be like a packet tracer. It's just going to be terminal windows. So you're going to work with a R1 here, and it's just going to be a terminal window. It's a black terminal window. And then you're going to have a H5 terminal window, and you're going to have an H10, and you'll have all 3 windows open at once. And you're going to have something malicious happen. And because of that, you're going to set up a firewall rule, and the lab will talk you through it. You may have to move the windows around because you're going to have 4 windows open at once. You'll have 2 R1 windows, and then you'll have an H5 window and H10 window, and you'll do something in one terminal window, but you're looking at another terminal window. So I don't want you to get confused. If you have problems, let me know. But always refer back that what you're actually doing is you're working with this particular topology, but you're just in a terminal window. So that's 2617, the only lab in module 26. So we know that we have to have some way to evaluate alerts. And a lot of time in this course, this security operations CyberOps, this course teaches students to be to understand triaging, to look at what's coming in and to notice that that is a threat. So we're not training students in this course that that are going to be threat hunters. So that would be that skilled cybersecurity analyst to maybe investigate that attack a little closer. A security operations center analyst is basically just looking at what's coming through and is it dangerous? Could it be dangerous? Now there are more and more refined tools, but it's really good for students to be able to look at it from this level so that they're really looking at the at some of the tools. It's kind of like configuring a router instead of using automation. They need to know the basics before they can go to automation. That makes sense. We talked about this last week, so I'm just talking a little bit more about it. Hopefully you have it straight in your head. True positive alert has been verified to be an actual security incident. False positive is not good. We want only true stuff. We either want a true positive or a true negative, and we talked about that last week. But just to review a little bit, true positives are desired and true negatives are desired. So if it's a true negative, that means that's just traffic that we can ignore it. It's okay. And there's no alerts being issued. What happens if you have a false positive, it's not necessarily that an event has occurred, but what you're doing is you're taking your time to investigate a false alarm. False negative are dangerous also. So a false negative means you missed that whole attack. You missed it, or you didn't miss it. Maybe the software missed it. So true is good, false is bad. If you take the certification, you better know this kind of backwards and forwards pretty good. Then there's a couple other terms that are going to be on certification. So deterministic and probabilistic. And I always have trouble saying that word. So this is common sense to me. So deterministic is basically all of the information to accomplish an exploit is assumed to be known. Probabilistic, you're making a prediction maybe on something that already happened. And you're using stats, you're using past data to determine that probably maybe an exploit may occur because it's happened before in this particular situation. But deterministic is much more finite than the probabilistic analysis. So those two terms, you need to have those straight in your mind. But this is kind of common sense. So put it in a chart. The attribute, so the definition, deterministic, based on precise input values. We know exactly what was input or what was not input, and we know exactly what came out. Probabilistic is based on probabilities, and we're not really sure what's happening. So the outcome for deterministic, you have a single outcome. And probabilistic, you have multiple outcomes. So it's not well defined. Uncertainty, there's no uncertainty in the model, in the deterministic model. But you're not real sure if probably it's going to happen. And we use that term all the time. Probably the sun's going to shine, but we're not sure. And of course, deterministic is more accurate. So you're going to get some examples on the CyberOps or the cybersecurity operations cert test, and you'll have to say whether it's deterministic or probabilistic. So we're already on module 27. This is where all the labs are. Whoops. ELK or Kibana is one of the tools that is used in Security Onion, and it itself has, usually we're just going to use Kibana, that is a component of the ELK. So all of these are sort of in the same pyramid, you might say, of Security Onion as well. We have an access, visualize, investigate, which is Kibana, which we'll use in the lab. And then we have some analyzing and then acquiring network data. You don't have to memorize all these because you're just going to be using Kibana in the lab. So another few terms about data, really important. You're going to see these on the cert. Data reduction. And we face that in our world constantly. You all know that. We have to reduce the amount of data by archiving, filtering, culling out the unnecessary data, of limiting the volume of data. So Elasticsearch can be more helpful to us. We have so much data now. And I know they're building data centers all over the world. In Mississippi right now, there are 16 planned data centers that are going to be built. And I know y'all have them there too. We're going to have one in my little town. So data is huge. So there's got to be a way to get that relevant data out. So that's really important. Data reduction, very important. Then data normalization. We run into problems if data is not normalized. So the example in the curriculum is take the IPv6 addresses. Well, there's several ways to write IPv6 addresses. You can use zeros, or you cannot use zeros if they're contiguous. MAC formats, the MAC address. There's several ways to write them, and I bet you've seen all of these ways, either with the dash, the colon, or the period. Date formats are the worst because there's all kinds of date formats. So in order to use data, it has to be normalized. So one of your labs, you will be normalizing an IPv6 address. So to kind of get that point. So data normalization is really important. You need a systematic approach to decompose data tables to eliminate redundant data. So how can you analyze that data if there's so much redundancy? So you want to be able to add, delete, and modify data without causing data inconsistencies. That's the goal. That's why you normalize data. In a database, you have to organize fields and tables. We've all used databases. But in data analysis, you have to pre-process the data before we can use the analysis. So data normalization, you'll get a lot of questions on the certification on data normalization. Then there's data archiving. So because there's so much data, we have to archive, and you probably all got a email from me this week if you're on my distribution list as a reminder to I don't think many of you have student classes that you need to archive, but well, you won't archive, you will be automatically archived because we have to. Data is huge. And all pieces of software, alert data has default times, but you and I both know you don't always have to accept the default time. It just kind of varies, depends on what you have and the room that you have. So in lab 2715, that's a required lab, you'll use some command line tools to manually normalize log entries. So you've got the timestamp field, because you can put time a lot of different ways, and the IPv6 field requires normalization. So you're going to do that 2715. It talks you right through it. So you'll use a virtual machine for that. And then as far as working in Squeal, we've already looked at this. Squeal is part of Security Onion, and Squeal will automatically correlate similar alerts into a single line, give you a way to look at it. Notice down here that we've got this line, this event 647 selected, and we're looking at the correlated events, and we come down here. When we select that line, we can check show packet data, show rule, and it gives us a source IP, even though it's up here, and it gives us the destination IP, the version, and so forth, the ID, and other data. To understand what's happening in the network, it may be useful to sort the CNT column so you can display the alerts with the highest frequency to the lowest frequency, so you can look at that. So you'll do some more work in Squeal. You can also construct queries, and constructing queries now is totally different than it used to be. With AI, it's limitless. With AI, you have so many more opportunities for constructing those queries, those little lines of code very quickly. But you can construct those queries using the query builder. That's part of Squeal. You kind of have to be familiar. If you're going to use software like this, you have to be very familiar with it. I'm taking a course right now in SD-WAN and learning the 1,500 dashboards for that particular piece of software and what each one does. And you can drill down pretty deeply and get lost and can't get back. So notice Squeal stores IP addresses in an integer representation. So all of them do not. Then you can pivot from Squeal, as I referred to before, and you'll do this in the labs in this module, in module 27. So basically, this is just right-clicked, and they'll tell you to right-click on this particular event, and they'll say pivot to Wireshark. When you do that, always select Force New, so you're not pulling up something that you've already looked at. So be sure when it says pivot to Wireshark that you select the one that is Force New. And so if I want to look at this particular one, it'll open it up in Wireshark and give me a whole lot more information. So there are some other Bro. I don't believe we'll be using any Bro tools. We use those in network security. Squeal is a console that enables a cybersecurity analyst to investigate, verify, classify security alerts, and all of these your eyes kind of cross when you first open this dashboard, but once you start doing a few labs and pivoting, you'll get used to it. You can also train Squeal or configure Squeal so that all those false positives can be expired, and you can escalate. They have some shortcut keys. Escalate some of those events, and you can categorize events. And there's other menu driven. You won't get as deeply into that. Basically, you're just going to be looking at particular alerts and figuring out where they came from, what it was, and so forth in those labs. This is ELK, and I think I already talked about that, or Cabana. This is the one I was talking about a few minutes ago. When you start this one, you go to a dashboard, and they have a date. Right up here at the top right will be today's date, or whatever day you're doing this. It'll have last 24 hours. So what you're going to need to do is click absolute, and I think that's instructions in the lab. But some of this you kind of have to intuitively think about it, because this particular lab is one that an attack occurred on June 11th, I think, or 12th of 2020. So obviously, you will have to change the date back to earlier than June, than 2025. So when you get there and you start looking for something that happened, you're going to have to change that date, and that's in the lab. So be sure the last 24 hours by default is what you want, because this is something, if you have a piece of software similar to this, you would not be looking at this, 5 years back. You may, but probably not, because all that would be archived at some point. So, but this is just so that you can see a real alert. Okay, so those are the labs, or module 27. There's a bunch of them. They're all interesting. Every time I do one, I learn something new. So take your time on those. Those are going to take you a while to do. So there's 1 in 26, and then there's 7 in 27. So the last module is actual incident response and evidence handling. And I think many of you either taught or have taken digital forensics. So digital forensics is a recovery and investigation of information found on digital devices as it relates to criminal activity. We talked about indicators of compromise early on. So an indicator of compromise is the evidence that a cybersecurity incident has occurred. It gives the example of a data breach HIPAA data breach occurred. So you would have to notify those individuals, or maybe your credit card, a particular credit card company, they're obligated to let us know about those. Analysts have to know the requirements regarding the preservation and handling of evidence. So that's really kind of the cybersecurity job, is understanding how we handle that if there's an investigation. One thing that I recommend that you download and look at the website is the NIST website, and they have all kinds of regs. This is the incident response framework. Let me see if I can pull it up off my hard drive. Up here at the beginning. So this is the guide to integrating forensic techniques into incident response. So that's the recommendation of the National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST has all kinds of publications, and they go by numbers. So it would really be a valuable thing for you to go through this and read it. It provides much more detail than the curriculum does. I recommend that you download that particular one. That 800-86 would be a great tool. NIST talks about the 4 phases of digital evidence process collection. So you're collecting that forensic data just like you would for any kind of event that takes place. You examine it, you extract any relevant information, then you have to draw some kind of conclusions from the data, and then you report. Of course, there is a certain process for all of that. There are different types of evidence, and the direct evidence is it is just absolutely in the possession of the accused. It's an eyewitness thing. It can't be argued. It was an observation. An example would be a confession. So that is direct evidence. Indirect evidence we call circumstantial, because we can develop some kind of theory or hypothesis from that indirect evidence. Best evidence is evidence could be storage devices, but you have to be careful with that as well, or archives of files. Of course, when we're talking about digital files, that's a whole other can of worms. And then the corroborating evidence, some evidence that supports another assertion. Of course, direct evidence is what we aim for in forensics. And then there's categories of evidence, communication data, the email, text, social, and all of that is open game. Transactional data, something we buy, financial records, any online activity that we do. Cloud storage now comes into place. We all use Google Drive. Social media is open game. Web browser, so you can check someone's intentions. So those are different categories of evidence. There is an order to collect evidence, and that's the RFC. If you can't sleep tonight, you might want to go to RFC 3227 and read it in its entirety. It'll put you right to sleep. If we go from most volatile to least volatile, so in other words, data in RAM is the most volatile, and so you better get it quick, because RAM is very volatile. If it's turned off, you want to grab it quick. Collection of digital evidence should begin with the most volatile, proceed to the least volatile. Something that's not going to go away, a hard drive that's been locked away. So very important that there's an order there. Chain of custody, and it's kind of common sense. You have to have a record of who discovered. Now, when you do the lab in 28, there's one lab, and you'll be answering these same questions on the lab. It's more like it's kind of common sense. So some of these same questions are in that lab, and you'll just need to actually turn it around and ask the question as if you were an investigator. All the details, the times, the places. So in an investigation, all these details have to be covered. Who had physical access to that, where it was stored. So chain of custody is very important. MITRE attack framework is really, I think I've mentioned MITRE attack before. I have a link here to a great YouTube video. It's one of those that he's drawing and talking at the same time. And that's just kind of it's global knowledge base of threat actor behavior, how a threat actor might behave and what you need to look for in that behavior. So there's all kinds of frameworks out there. And then curriculum talks about the cyber kill chain and the diamond model. We'll cover those real quick. There are a lot of questions on the cybersecurity operations certification exam from Pearson. You better know all 7 of these. And sometimes they're a little difficult to keep straight. So separately, the curriculum covers them all. That's reconnaissance. He's researching, he's gathering information. He hasn't done anything yet. He's just doing recon to see, well, would this make a good target? Then we go to weaponization. So he's done reconnaissance. This is going to be my target. What kind of weapon would I use to target those particular individuals or systems? Of course, we talk a lot. We haven't talked a lot about it, but anywhere you look, they talk about zero-day attack. And that's a kind of attack or a kind of weapon that's never been used before. So if it's 0 day, it means we have no documentation of it in any of our databases. So we don't really know how to defend against it. Then the next step is delivery. So you weaponize, you know what weapon you're going to use. So now you're finding some kind of vector to deliver that particular weapon. And it could be malware, it could be other things. So that's where the IDS and IPS comes into play. But at that point, if they're already ready to deliver that weapon, they found a hole, and then they know how to get to that particular system. And then after they've delivered the tool, they exploit it. Okay, it's time to set off the bomb. And they found a vulnerability. They're going to now try to gain control of the target so that they can do what they want to. And of course, all this is in your curriculum. There's some tactics, adversary tactics, and there's some defense. Of course, train employees, that's really, really important. Hardening devices, all our devices, including endpoints. And then installation. The threat actor typically wants a back door so he can get in and out easily. To preserve this back door, the remote access should not alert cybersecurity analysts. Now we're talking from a threat actor's viewpoint here. We want to make that such an obscure back door that it doesn't alert anybody that you're going in and out the back door. So you've got to account, if you're a threat actor, for all the scans and all the virus detectors that would still keep you safe so you can get in and out of there like you want to. Here's the adversary tactics on this particular step of the cyber kill chain. Create point of persistence. Again, over here for our defense, detect, log, analyze installation activity. All that's in that chapter. And then command and control. Once you've got weaponized, you know what's there. You've unloaded the weapon. So now you've got two-way communication. You're command and control. You're in command, but you're controlling that system from somewhere. So the cybersecurity analyst has to be able to detect command and control communication. More tactics to block operation. At this point, at command and control, you're in a lot of danger. Your system's in a lot of danger. If they've gotten that far in that attack, you're in a lot of danger. Then actions on objectives is the final step, and the threat actor they've been successful. They've gotten in, they've done the damage, they've taking control of databases. If they're ransomware, they've got you. So now they can demand, they can gather data, they can steal data, they can steal money, whatever. So here's the adversary tactics, and of course the SOC defense. That's why it's a constant thing. Then the diamond model of intrusion analysis is a little bit different. It's a security incident that's already taken place, and you'll need to know these terms because those are on this cybersecurity operations certification. There's a lot of this stuff that we covered tonight that is on the certification test. Adversary is just a party responsible for the intrusion. Capability is the tool or technique that they use. The infrastructure is the network path they used. And then the victim is the target. So the diamond model it can illustrate how the adversary pivots from one event to the next. And here's the example. An employer reports that his computer is not acting right. A host scan says the computer is infected with malware. The malware, that analysis reveals that the malware contains a list of command and control domain names. It resolved to a list of IP addresses. The IP addresses are used to identify the adversary and investigate logs to determine. So you'll need to know the diamond model pretty good. I put them in a chart. I always need charts. So here we've got the cyber kill chain, the diamond model of intrusion. The focus of the cyber kill chain is the life cycle of an attack. So it starts with reconnaissance and it ends with action on objectives. It's got those seven phases. But the diamond model is more on the about the behavior of that adversary. There are 7 phases in the cyber kill chain. Again, you need to know them all. And then, but there's 4 components, hence the diamond model. Preventative, cyber kill focuses on prevention. The diamond model is just detecting what's already happened and how are we going to respond to it. So one's not a substitute for the other. They're just models that we use as cybersecurity professionals. Lockheed Martin did develop the cyber kill chain, and CrowdStrike, which is valid, developed the diamond model. Again, focuses on stages. Diamond model emphasizes a relationship between those different elements, the adversary. So incident response, there's another NIST publication that I would recommend. That's 800-61, and that's the Bible of the incident handling guide, and that's what you will use when you do that lab 2813, I believe it is. So incident response. So an incident has happened. It's happened. You didn't prevent it, but you want to limit the impact, assess the damage caused, and try to recover. So that this Bible here has recommendations for that. It has the methods, the policies, procedures. So those 2 publications I would recommend that you download and keep if you're going to be either teaching this or using it. This just summarizes policy, plan, and procedure of an incident response. And I won't read that to you. They're in the curriculum. That you have to have a policy in the first place of your incident response. And then you have to have a plan if there is an incident takes place. And then, of course, you have to have something to follow up and do during that incident. You can't just haphazardly have something. Nowadays, most people will have these 3 elements or at least 2 out of 3 of those elements. The stakeholders, of course, management has a buy-in to this. All you have to do is have a really bad attack and all of a sudden management has money to beef up security. It happened to my organization and they got a rude awakening. Of course, you have to involve IT, legal's always a part of that. Many times, public affairs, media relations, some of the companies that have been violated, that have affected the consumer, that takes some public affairs. Human resources, of course, would be involved. Business continuity planners and the facilities management. Those are all stakeholders, and that's not all of them, but that's the ones in handling security incident. There's a life cycle. It's kind of common sense. So you prepare, right? You're always preparing. You have to be trained constantly. Things change. Then if something happens, you have to be able to detect it and analyze it. Was it really, was it true positive? You really have to analyze it. Then you have to figure out, well, how can we contain it, eradicate it, and recover from it? And sometimes this flowchart has to go backwards. Did we really detect the correct thing? Are we really analyzing the right data? So we may have to redo that particular loop there. Then we're always going to have post-incident activity so that next time we can be prepared a little better. That's the hope, that we could be prepared a little better. And then it breaks down each one, preparation, and we've already talked about that, so I'm going to go on through that. Containment and post-incident. I wanted to get to reporting requirements, information sharing. You do have to check with legals, because sometimes there's government regs that you have to follow when there's an attack. And if you have the NIST publications and you're using them, they give you step by step. There's a 2813, and basically it's almost a narrative that the questions you would ask in incident handling, kind of think through it. One more thing I wanted to give you, there is a great tool called it's a cyber career pathway tool, and it's kind of a live thing. This is a link for it. I'll just show it to you real quick. This is really good with your students to show them the relation in some of these jobs. Like if I come over here and I click technical support, work role technical support, and how it touches cybersecurity legal advice way on the purple side. It touches technology portfolio management, but it also touches system administration and infrastructure support. We come over here to the governance side. Mostly the governance is all going to be in the purple. It doesn't really cross over, but it's interesting to me that if I can, the further right I go, the more times than not, particularly here in the blue, I'm going to be involving a lot of these aspects. So you can come up here and select a work role. So if we go down to, let's go down to protection, and let's do digital forensics. And I'll do under digital forensics, secure systems development. And it kind of shows you there's their digital forensics job, protection and defense, top 5 roles related by shared task, digital evidence analysis, cybercrime investigation, incident response. But you're also a little bit involved in this secure system development. Now, this is goes on and on. I can't possibly show you all of it. It's a real good demo, though. So I can clear and select another one. So this, I can send you this website separately, or you can get it off the recording, or I'm happy to just send that to you.
Oh,
so
send that if you don't mind. That would be great.
Sure. It's just a great resource for your students and to show them all the possibilities, all the jobs that are out there. Okay, this is the last time we meet, so I wanted to see, were there any questions about anything? We covered a lot of it last week, and I sent out a document to tell you what your final requirements were, but I wanted to see if there was anything else you had comment, question, complaint? Any question on the final requirements? Wow.
Doesn't seem like there's any questions, but I guess one of the things that I'd like to bring up is as we go through this, because we'll kind of finish off since this is our last class. I'm assuming because we're through the 31st is where everything ends, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I have it as the 10th, but it is the 31st.
Okay, so I'm assuming that we have the ability to kind of reach out to you for clarification on certain
Oh,
areas
absolutely. Sure.
if we have that. Okay.
Of course.
All right.
Anytime.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I do. I have a question. How long after the class is completed will we have access to the course so we can continue to study? I'm not sure if I'm going
That's
to
a
be
great
ready.
question. That's a great question. So you can set up an alumni course, and actually, so let me close this. And so I'm logged in here, and I'm going to come up here and click my name, and I'm going to go down here to learning history under my profile.
We don't
I'm
see
sorry,
you.
we don't see your screen.
Oh, I'm not sharing. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. Let me start over. Okay, now you can see it, right? So
Yes.
I'm going to come up here under my name, and then I go down to learning history. And it doesn't have anything in here because it's my instructor role. Well, it might. And you'll see all this good stuff here. So here's my learning history, and the course this course will be in your learning history. So you could click it. So if, I did some of these little courses just to look at it. So what you'll be able to do is click view curriculum. So even though it's not under your My Learning anymore, when the course ends, it will still be under your learning history. Also here is your badges and certifications. So your badge, if you complete the course. Also your discounts, your transcript here as a learner or instructor. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you'll still have it available.
Thank you. Another question. Since October is going to be Cybersecurity Awareness Month, does
Right.
Cisco have some tips available for us that we could send out to the user community also?
Oh my word, you need to get on their mailing list. They have a lot of cybersecurity, just Cisco.com, not necessarily Netacad, but Cisco.com has make a note to get there, to give you a link to sign up for like their newsletter. I get all kind of stuff from them. So let me make a note for that. Yeah, they should have some stuff coming out in October for sure. And also link for jobs. And I'll look into that and send that out as well.
Thank you. I have another question. This question is for you, Russell. It's
Yes.
part of the course as we're going through the course and materials and things like that. Things are coming to me now. So we have backups and all that. You explained to me the immutable backups and things like that. Turn that down.
Yeah.
Do we have backups in, does like Cisco or Microsoft have our backups too? And do we have the physical backups somewhere else on campus in case something happens?
So
the-
we have the backups at main campus and in Kirkwood Highway.
Okay.
We have the